So today, we're going to dive into a piece of ancient philosophy that is so direct, it's honestly a little startling. It's called the Ashtavakra Gita. And this text, it just cuts right to the very heart of reality. The best way to get it, though, is to start with a story.
Okay, let's get into it. The whole thing kicks off with a powerful king named Janaka. One afternoon, he decides to take a nap, and he has this dream that is so real, so terrifying, that it just completely shatters his entire sense of reality.
I mean, in this dream, his whole world falls apart. He loses his kingdom, his money, everything. He's just a beggar on the street, literally running for his life, desperate for a sip of water. And then poof, he wakes up. He's back in his fancy palace, totally safe. But he is completely shaken, left with this one massive question. So his search for an answer to this question leads him to a sage named Ashtavakra. Now, this guy was known for being brutally, uncompromisingly direct. And the answer he gives the king? Well, it's a total curveball. It's not what anyone would expect. Ashtavakra just looks at the king and tells him, straight up, that both of those states, his waking life as this powerful king and his dream life as a desperate peasant, neither of them are real. They are both, in fact, illusions. And this direct approach is what makes this philosophy so unique. You know, if you compare it to the more famous Bhagavad Gita, that text kind of takes you by the hand and gives you step-by-step guidance. But the Ashtavakra Gita? Nope. It just presents the final, ultimate truth, no sugarcoating. It basically says, look, here's the truth. Now it's on you to rise up and meet it.
So this direct teaching, it kicks off with a really mind-bending idea, that the entire world, everything we experience, our whole reality, is basically just a mental projection. You could call it a grand collective delusion.
You know, a great modern way to think about this is like the movie The Truman Show. The idea is that we are all basically actors in this huge production, and we've mistaken the movie set for what's actually real. We're performing in a movie we don't even know we're in.
Okay, here's another way to think about it. Picture a movie theater. Up on that screen, you see everything, right? Births, deaths, love, war. A whole lifetime of drama unfolds. But let me ask you, has any of that stuff actually happened to the light coming out of the projector or to the screen itself? Of course not.
And this is such a brilliant point. You can't fight an illusion. You can't meditate your way out of it or try really hard to make it go away. The only thing that gets rid of an illusion is knowledge. It's as simple as flicking on a light switch and seeing, oh, that scary snake in the corner was just a piece of rope the whole time.
Okay, so this brings up a pretty big question, right? If our experiences, our world, even our own thoughts are all part of this big illusion, then what in the world is actually real?
Well, this philosophy breaks it all down into two super simple ideas. First, you've got the drishya. That's basically everything that can be seen or experienced, the whole show. And then you have the drik. That's the seer, the witness, the pure consciousness that's just watching it all.
And here is the absolute key to the whole thing. Everything we can observe, our bodies, our thoughts, the whole universe, is always changing. It has a beginning and it has an end. And according to this philosophy, anything that's temporary is ultimately unreal.
So, what's left? What's the one thing that is permanent, that never, ever changes? It's you. And I don't mean your body or your personality or your thoughts. I mean that silent, conscious awareness inside you that just witnesses all the change. That is the real permanent you. All right, so you might be thinking, this is all pretty wild, but what's the point? How does this actually help me in my everyday life? Well, the goal is to get to this profound sense of inner peace, what the text calls living at ease.
Now, this isn't about becoming some detached robot or thinking nothing matters. It's about freedom. When you truly realize that the movie of your life isn't the ultimate reality, you can stop desperately clinging to the plot. You can still love and work and feel things deeply, but you're free from that deep down fear that comes from trying to find something permanent in a world where everything changes. Your security comes from being the witness, not from the fleeting show itself.
And to really nail this idea down, there's this fantastic little story about a young boy. He had a really bad toothache, and a wise teacher came up and asked him how he was doing. The kid's answer was just incredibly profound. He looked at the teacher and said, "I am fine, the tooth is aching." You see what he did there? He just perfectly separated the two. The I that is always fine, that's the changeless observer, the drish. The aching tooth, that's just a temporary observed experience, the drishya.
He knew he wasn't his pain. He was the one who was simply aware of the pain. And that's a huge difference.
And so, this ancient text leaves us right here with this final powerful question. It's a challenge, really. It asks us to look past the movie of our lives, beyond all the labels and ideas we have about ourselves, and to ask the most fundamental question there is. Who is the one that's watching?